Hey, what's going on, guys? And today I wanted to do an in-depth video review for the Comfortbilt HP22i. So what I want to cover in this video is I'm going to talk a little bit about the installation. I'm going to show you a demo of the actual pellet stove turning on. I'm going to give you some of my overall thoughts now that I've used this several times and kind of had some time to really understand how it works and some of the functionality. I'll talk a little bit about cleaning and some of the extra things that you need to know about it before you decide to purchase this. So before I get into the actual stove, I wanted to give a little layout of our home and kind of the environment here. So we bought this house last year and it had this inbuilt fireplace here, which we have since actually painted white. Kind of came out really nice. But originally when I moved in, there was actually tile that came out probably to about here where my fingers point. It kind of came out in a square right in front of the fireplace. Now, the past owners actually had a existing liner that ran up the chimney, and they had a 6-inch liner in there that was being utilized for a wood-burning stove that was freestanding just sitting on that tile right here. The most recent owners that had been in the house for the last couple of years decided not to continue using that wood-burning stove. They ripped it out, left the liner in, and just kind of had a cover sitting across the chimney. Now, in my case, I'm in a basement here, and it probably gets, even in the summertime, like right now, it's probably about 85, 90 degrees out right now, and it's 67 degrees down here with no AC, no nothing on. So it typically stays colder here in the basement. I ran a mini split down here, had this installed from a professional HVAC contractor, and had this set at 70 degrees to heat with the Mitsubishi Hyperheat. And while this was very effective, our electric bill ended up costing well over $1,000 in January amongst all the other heating that we have in our large property. So I knew that I needed a different solution, and that's where this particular stove came in. So now that I've kind of gotten that out of the way, let's kind of get into the installation of this. Basically what this comes down to is I had to hire someone. They had to come in, remove the existing liner because the 6-inch is actually too big. They put in a brand new 4-inch liner that runs up the chimney. They put a new cap on the top of the chimney, and then they were able to hook up the entire Comfortbilt system for me. Now, I recommend if you go to the Comfortbilt site, you can actually look up vendors who are installers within your local area. They don't necessarily have to be licensed as someone that can do this, as long as they're able to, do some of the firework, like liner work. Like the guy that I used wasn't actually officially licensed. But typically with the city, all that they're going to do is have you pull a permit. They're going to come in, look at the unit, and then just say, okay, and they're going to leave. At least that was the case in my scenario. That may be different from state to state or city to city. But it was a very straightforward inspection process. And in terms of installation, there really wasn't much here that could necessarily go wrong, unless, of course, he didn't do something right back there with the flue setup. But really all it is a T-piece that kind of goes back and then goes up and attaches to the flue, which then has a cap that's tightened on the top of the chimney. Really not much to it in terms of that setup. Now, for the actual stove itself, we were able to bring this through a doorway that we have back here that leads right to the outdoors. So for getting this in here, we just used the dolly. If you're going to be bringing it down, like if I had brought it down the stairs, would have really been very challenging to do that due to the weight. So just really consider that if you're going to be putting this into a room, is how you're going to actually get it in there. Now, beyond that, let's kind of go through some of the functionality of the unit itself. You have your hopper feeder up here, so you basically can open this, and I've got a bag of pellets here. Traditionally with pellets, you're going to be looking at about a 40-pound bag. I just picked this up from a local place that sells these right before our summer months. And typically you want something that's going to have as little sawdust as possible, like low ash. So they're going to burn really slow and obviously produce more heat without necessarily going through all the pellets really quickly. So you're probably going to want to try different pellets. This is actually the first one that I've tried. So I'm probably going to test out a few different brands and see which one I like better. But overall, fairly straightforward. This particular hopper holds about 47 pounds, so I can basically fit a full bag into this, and that should burn for roughly about 24 hours on like a low setting. You do have a sensor up here at the top. This is basically going to indicate if this is open. It's a safety mechanism to prevent this from staying on and potentially causing maybe like a pellet fire where you could have fire coming up into this, any other problems. So that's really nice that they have that. In terms of the actual insides, you have this piece here that you can use to actually clean the combustion chambers that kind of go across right here. So this actually is a rod that comes up, and this is actually cleaning those chambers and keeping all of the soot and other things off of that. So this is just kind of a good practice to do this. maybe every 2 to 3 days, something like that in between when you're doing your cleanings. In terms of the inside, this door actually comes off here. This is all magnetized, so there's a large magnet here, so it will stay shut just from the magnet, and it's really easy to bring this open. Once this is open, I now have a lever here that I can then open this way, so this actually comes up. So you can see how secure this is. It's basically a massive door handle that's going to keep this thing, while it's actually burning, fully shut. Now on the inside, you can see all the ash is going to build up all within this section here, and then we have our burn pot down here. Typically, while this is running, you're going to have all the pellets feed down from the top here, and then the flame is going to get pretty big right up in the center here. When it comes to cleaning, this actually came with an ash vacuum, and I have it here in a closet. It just looks like a standard little shop vac. It does not come with any extensions, so I was able to use one of my other extensions that I had. This really helps kind of get into some of those small crevices, but this is specifically for ash. Also really good if you have a garden, you can go put the ash in your garden, and you have that option. So I just kind of keep this stored away, but it's very secure. It's got 2 large latches here on each side, so you're not going to get ash like spill all over the place by accident like you might with another smaller vacuum that's similar to this. So typically, you're probably going to want to clean this, I would say, from what I'd gather, maybe every like 2 to 3 days max if you were running it for that extended period of time. Generally, the ash is going to build up, as you can see, all around the front of the door here and all on the sill and in the base here. One thing I would caution as well is I noticed when I was cleaning a couple times, I did get some static charge buildup, and because this is all metal, you just want to make sure maybe you don't have full static that you're carrying with you, because this will conduct. Beyond that, let's actually do a little demo here. It's actually summer right now, but because I'm doing a video, I do want to demo this for you guys. I'll show you how it works. We'll fire it up, and it does take a little bit of time. Let me go through the menu first before I show you that, and you can get kind of an idea. You have your power button here. This will power the unit off. You have your info button, so if I hit this, it'll actually light up the screen. We have, right now it's in manual mode. It's currently stopped. Our current temperature is set 67, and then we have our fan blower speed. We have the time. It's Monday. It says 8:12, which is actually wrong. I need to update that, and then it says off. Now, we can go through here and change any options we need by simply just hitting the up or down. You have kind of a back and then a return button, and then you can also utilize these other buttons to go like there's a cycle button here and this plus button. I actually don't think I use these a lot, but if we hit power on, you have 2 main options. Really, with the manual mode, this is basically just going to run. It's not going after a specific temperature. It's essentially just burning and running. If you go in the temperature mode, it's actually going to try to hit that temperature and then stay within that. So the fire is going to really roar up, get going. The fan's going to blow at maximum speed. Let's say it was 63 degrees and we want it at 67. We're going to get this thing going. It's going to crank as fast and as hard as it can. It's going to feed a ton of pellets. And then what's going to happen is basically you are going to have the pellet feed get a little bit slower automatically, and then it will just kind of keep the fire going so that way it can maintain the temperature. So it's really cool. It's almost like it's mixed the best of both worlds in terms of something that's like technologically advanced, really safe, but then also utilizing a real fire to produce really awesome heat. So let's go ahead and turn it on. While it's booting up and kind of igniting, I'll talk about a couple other things as well. So I'm going to hit power. We're going to leave it on manual mode. You can see it's going to flip. It might be a little tough to see here, but it says igniting on the screen. So that's basically now kicking up. You're going to hear it start dispensing the pellets into the burn pot. And let me walk through a couple other things while it's going through the ignite process so you guys can, not be sitting here just staring at nothing while it's getting going. It does take a few minutes. So we have a manual here, actually a remote, sorry. You have your on off. You can do your temperature. You have the manual button there. You can do up or down on the temperature, and then you can also hold or unhold on specific temperatures. So really nice if you want to use this. My wife has her desk over here, so commonly, she could have the remote here and say, oh, well, I want the temperature up, and she could control that without getting up from her desk and keeping that kind of going. Another thing that's nice about this is we were able to run the power cord right under the actual shroud that's set up here. So we just have this running to an extension cord because it was not quite long enough. And then we actually added a small power strip that just runs here. I do recommend putting this on something that would either be a GFCI or at minimum like a power surge protector. That way if you ever had any problems, it's just extra protection while it's staying on, keeping the electricity on. Beyond that, let's see, what else can we talk about with these? Pellets, obviously something you're going to have to buy in bulk. The more of them you buy in larger bags, the better it's going to be. You're going to have more opportunity to save money if you are buying these more in bulk. Like if you went and bought, I imagine, 50 bags, you could probably save going with like local vendors versus just buying them one at a time. So it's something to keep in mind, and obviously having a place to store these as you will go through them fairly fast. I believe this bag roughly costs around $5 to $6 for the 40 pound bag. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing I wanted to mention with this particular model is we actually did run into a problem where we had a whine noise, and there's actually an auger that's basically up here. This guy down here spins, and that's what feeds the pellets, the auger that then feeds them down into the burn pot. So what ended up happening is we ran into a problem where we had this bearing on that auger that was causing noise. It was basically really loud and squealing. So I called Comfortbilt, and they were actually really, really helpful. They sent me out the part, and they paid the guy who did my installation to actually come out and put it back in and basically install it for me for free. So it was really awesome support from Comfortbilt. That was something I was a little bit nervous about going into this particular product, is knowing that, am I going to get good support? If there's a problem, am I going to have issues? And so far, their support has been really, really good. Here you can see the fire is now starting up. We basically will initially see smoke fill the entire chamber here. That'll then get sucked back up into the system, and now we're going to start getting pellets fed into this, and it's technically still in the igniting phase. Right now the fan is not on because we're in ignition mode. Once the fire is basically to a point we want it and the ignition is up and running, the fan is actually going to come out here. So most of the heat comes out here. You could probably put your hand up here even when it's full blast, and it's not even really going to be all that hot. So if you had a pet or something that's going to jump up here, a cat, maybe in our case, we have 3 cats, not really going to be too much of an issue. The heat coming out of this, I have a gun that basically is used for like thermal sensing if you want to use it in the winter. I've used it to detect like weak points in doors and windows, and I pointed it at this upon our first use, and it ended up actually being a case where it was probably pushing out around 400 to 500 degrees of heat. So it really puts out amazing heat. The other thing that's nice about this is the heat feels really even. And if you have it in a space like we do here, because most of our house is actually above us, it actually rises onto the into the floor, and it just kind of feels like the whole house actually gets really warm. So this does take a bit of time, as you can see, to ignite. I just wanted to hit on different points that I could think of while this was going. One thing you'll notice with this is if the actual pellets get low, you can see it kind of drains them out almost in a circular pattern around the auger. You may have to constantly be thinking about, hey, do I have enough pellets in here? If you don't, what will happen is this will end up getting to a point where you'll probably have to either add more to it or maybe push them to the sides from inside. Another nice thing that I would maybe consider to think about would be, you'll notice here inside when I poured this, there was some extra ash. You could actually get a bucket and maybe get like a filter of some kind of sifter, so that way when you pour the pellets, you could do it into a bucket, and you could have all the dust and everything go to the bottom, and all the pellets simply just get the maximum capacity that you would want without all the extra dust that could cause problems. So that's another suggestion that Comfortbilt actually suggested to me. But here you can see, hopefully this actually ignites. I don't know if this is going to run into a problem because I don't have a lot of pellets in here right now. But typically what's going to happen with this is it will get up a pretty good fire. The fan will kick on all the way to 5. Right now it's on 1. So if you look here, you can see it's at the 1 mark all the way on the left. And then this is going to blow pretty good. I have had a couple instances where it's given me some headaches due to the fact that either I maybe didn't have enough pellets, maybe I hadn't cleaned the burn pot quite enough, whatever it may be. And it's possible with this demo, I may not have had enough pellets in there for it to feed properly, and that's why it's not quite picking up the way it should have been. You can see the flame actually started to get pretty good, and now it's kind of kicking out. Another thing that my installer told me is that if you run this after maybe like say a summer season, you haven't had it on, you may want to open a window because of the fact that some of the pellets would be sitting, and there's like humidity and things like that in the air. It may be good to open a window. In our case, we have 1 window. That way, if there's smoke that comes into the room, you're not going to have a problem. So just something to keep in mind. But Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to quite get this up. Usually, again, it does take some time. Typically, these are designed to be running for extended periods of time. It may even kick off on me if it decides that I didn't have enough pellets and then the flame doesn't get up. But traditionally, you will expect the fire in this to get pretty high. It literally will go as high as the glass and almost looks scary to some extent. We were thinking, oh, is this actually normal? It looks like it's now doing a little bit more smoke, probably trying to really get it into ignite mode. I'll see if I can feed some more pellets there to the middle. That may help. The smell that it produces is really nice too. Overall, I've found that when having this running, it makes the house smell really good, and you will typically sometimes even notice it outside. So I think it's going through the ignite process here again. You can see there it starts to light. Okay, so I had to cut the video, but I wanted to give you guys a demo here. It took about 5 minutes or so, and the fan is actually now just kicking on. But this is pretty much a typical flame as to what you'd expect once this thing is kicking. And now we have this actually starting to kick on, and all of the heat is basically going to be produced right from here. So this is going to stay on pretty much at this pace, probably for 5 to 10 minutes. And then depending on the settings that you have, either between manual or temp, it's going to kick off and give you the effect that you want. Overall, you probably would want to wait at least 2 hours after this is cooled down to pretty much go ahead and actually clean this. I'd maybe even say possibly longer. And that way you're not going to hurt yourself by burning your hand or anything like that as you go in there to clean. Typically what will happen when you power off, you're going to find that it's just essentially going to stop feeding pellets, and then the fire will die down on its own over time because it doesn't have any more fuel to keep it going. So overall, this is pretty much a normal fire. Really awesome as something to look at too. I'll go ahead and even turn the lights off in here so you can see. We have several lights in here, and again, we have some sunlight coming in, but looks really awesome at night. Really just makes for some nice ambiance. Again, right now the fan is kicking up. I think it's at setting 2, but I can actually increase this. So that's 3, 4, and then 5. And you may not even notice, I think with this, it actually stays at max pace as it goes. But now we're in heating mode, so it's fully out of ignite. But anyways, thanks for watching my in-depth video review. Hopefully you found this helpful, and overall, I've been very happy both with Comfortbilt and the experience having this pellet stove. Really looks quite nice on our setup here and really came out perfect. I'm very, very happy with the overall setup of everything. And another thing I did want to add is if you do decide to get something like this, I believe there are currently rebates that you can get from the IRS. So if you decide to go out and actually get one of these, you can actually get a kickback from the government for purchasing them and submitting a rebate with your taxes. So that's something else to keep in mind. That is another big benefit of getting a pellet stove. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.